Hey, hello there. It is Friday. So happy to jump on here live with you. Friday is a clinic day for me, actually, and I'm at our West LA clinic and sometimes get carried away in the lunchroom having discussions. So I'm running a little bit late here today, but I just wanted to thank you so much for joining me today for our Friday chats. It's been a good week here in Southern California. We have had some blue sky, and that makes a world of difference because I get to run again outside and play with my kids outside. And that just is a lot for me and for my nervous system. Uh, Last week in our live, we talked about exercise for neuroplasticity and how a big part of that was actually how much exercise that we get. So, we talked a little bit about getting at least 45 minutes, 3 days a week to have those long lasting effects. It's why we're doing this neuroplasticity challenge at our clinic right now, is because we want that for ourselves, for our families, for the people we work with. So we've been kind of big in the neuroplasticity world lately, and the question then really comes up, and this has been coming up a lot. I think something I've been reflecting on a lot is what about the dose for therapy for neuroplasticity, and especially in a really complex case. So I think, as I've mentioned to you before, we've been putting a lot of the final touches on our cultivating central nervous system connectivity course. Brittany Kim and I have been working a lot on this, and we're recording a few things to release before the course. Um, and we're calling them soapboxes because we kind of go off on these soapboxes. And I want to give you a little preview of one of our soapboxes. And the soapbox is on dosing and how do we do enough to make a difference, right? So is our dose high enough for someone to make big and lasting changes? And especially if there's multiple areas that we're addressing in a case, how much is enough? And are we underdosing it? And I think just like a lot of things in PT school, it really depends. And I'm finding this a lot. Like, even just the conversation we were having in the kitchen today was really like, well, in this case, no, this person has X, Y, and Z factors, and they don't need daily therapy by any means. But in this case, yes. So that's a lot of what we're going to go into in our weekend course. So, I want to give you a little sneak peek of our soapbox. And so, today I want to talk a little bit about what does the evidence say about intensity of therapy in complex cases. What do we know that we need to drive some of that neuroplasticity and central nervous system connectivity? And then give you an example of a program that I just developed for somebody, but it's like a sample of what we would typically do. So let's dive in together and let's talk first about the evidence. Now, there's a lot of great full text articles available, so I'm going to drop lots of these into the chat for you. Um, and so the first that I want to talk about is in functional movement disorders. So, functional movement disorders has a lot of nice literature that's building for physical therapy, and most of it is in this more intensive realm. So, and one of the pilot studies that they did in the UK, so this is Nielsen, who is like one of my functional movement disorder idols, somebody that we look at the literature coming out of that world quite a bit. So they did a pilot study looking at 8 sessions of therapy over the course of 5 days, each session being 45 to 90 minutes long. So 8 sessions, 5 days. I know that's not our typical kind of in the US PT program. We might go twice a week, we might go 3 times a week. So if we think about that dose, it's pretty high. So maybe 8+ hours in 5 days. So that's one particular model. They've had a lot of success with this model too, And they publish, I'll put the link in here too, because you can look at the protocol. They're doing a study called Physio for FMD. And in that protocol, they're changing it a little bit and they're looking at 3 times a week for 3 weeks. So 9 visits total, and then a 3-month follow up. That might fit in our more traditional model of practice, but still, like, still has a pretty good intensity if you ask me. So, if we think, I know at Reactive, like when I started Reactive and it was just me and 2 babies at home, and I was very part-time, a lot of what I was capable of was 1 time a week. Because I was 3 days a week. I had these like 12-hour days, they were booked solid, and, that's all I had room for. And when I think back to that, I was really underdosing some things just because of the limitations on my schedule. And even if we look at the Reactive today, we're really busy. We took a huge dip during the pandemic. We closed down, we did telehealth, but it was a lot less. And as we started ramping back up, the demand really went up because people had been putting off therapy for a long time. And I would say, from a logistical standpoint, it can be really hard to get that level of intensity. And that's something that we're working on, to be honest, because if you look at the literature, it says that the intensity is part of the solution. So I want to give you another piece of evidence here. And this is the MORE program. So this is in Louisville. And here they actually do, again, in functional movement disorders, they do a 1 week inpatient treatment program. And it's multidisciplinary. And each day includes PT, OT, speech if needed, psychology, um, and the neurologist is really involved as well. And again, the results are really outstanding for improvement for people with functional movement disorders. So 5 days a week, at least 3 hours a day, inpatient rehab. And I think there's something to be said. We've been talking a lot about context and environment when we talked about that 5Es model a few weeks ago. I think there's something to be said for that level of intensity and actually changing the environment to do that level of therapy. So, something to think about too. And Tammy asked, where was that? And that was at Fraser Rehab. Now, I'm not sure if they're still doing that program there because Catherine Lefevre, who directed it, she is now at Northwestern. I would wonder if that program is going to continue there. If you know, let me know. But I think it's a very good model of what could happen. Okay, so third, I wanted to just give a little bit of what we've seen in dystonia. So we have less of these larger trials in dystonia, but Nancy Beal, who is up in the Bay Area here in California, she was the first person I went to learn about dystonia about 9 years ago, and is really a pioneer in this field, especially the learning-based sensory motor training. And again, I'll put the link to the article. And I think it's back from 2009, where they did a group with focal hand dystonia. And again, intensity. They did it in a group basis, which I think is really innovative. 3 hours a day for 5 days a week for 2 weeks. So 30 total hours, and had also had people making changes to their fitness routine and sleep and diet and all of the things, which I love because that's really how we base our program. And again, really great results in people recovering function and their musical ability, for example, in focal hand dystonia. Very high repetition of practice, right? And I think a very high commitment. When you sign up for a program that's going to be that intense, you have a high commitment. And I think that's really important. So those are just three little pieces that I wanted to share with you that really demonstrated the dosing part in different, especially more complex disorders like a functional movement disorder or dystonia. Now, so if we talk about the connectivity piece, one of these studies actually had a follow-on study with fMRI, and this is the group at Fraser Rehab, where they wanted to look at changes in connectivity. And indeed, they found them. So I think this is so great. I hope this happens in kind of every randomized controlled trial so we can see neuroplasticity at work. But what they found is that they found in the people who had better improvement, greater connectivity between the amygdala and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And that was actually something that they thought may happen as the person gained more control of their movements. Um, and that directly correlated to their improvements in their ability to move. So, we got reorganization, we got changes in connectivity, and we're seeing that in fMRI from intensive practice. So I think that's really, really powerful. So finally, I want to give you an idea of what this might look like. So this is something that, again, logistically has been a challenge in some of our regular practice, but this is something that we're doing more and more, is setting something in more of an intensive fashion. Um, I can't get this piece of paper apart. So this is an example of one of the things that we do here at Reactive is this is not for everybody. We want to make sure people are ready for this. They have the commitment, they know what it takes, and then we can talk about what we do. So we do a free consult with people to see if this would be a good fit. And after that free consult, we kind of write up a summary of it, write up what their goals are, and describe the program and provide a little sample schedule. So, kind of a Monday through Friday. So, we do a week minimum of the program. So, it would range from a week to 4 weeks. 4 weeks is the most we've done, but we've done follow ups with that. And kind of Monday through Friday, you'll see PT at least 3 days a week, OT 3 days a week, yoga therapy twice a week, personal training, especially if we're grading up an exercise routine, psychology. We may work directly with a naturopath. So we have a neuropsychologist and a psychologist that we work really closely with. We have a naturopath that we work closely with if that's needed. And then daily practice. So if you look at the literature, everything included daily practice on top of that. And I think that's really important so that uh, a person can see what it takes, what it involved. So we're looking at about 3 or 4 hours of different interdisciplinary therapies together. We've had great success too when we can do a combined evaluation with a person. So the last time we did it, we actually did PTOT yoga therapy evaluation and kind of got all those goals together, looked at all the underlying pieces together, and then we could kind of each work on a different piece of the program. um, we'll kind of put that together in a sample schedule for the week and then talk about here's what we would focus on in physical therapy. Here's occupational therapy. For us, that's a big part is lifestyle interventions. Here's where yoga therapy comes in, particularly for the autonomic nervous system part. Here's where personal training comes in. Here's neuropsych or psychology. Here's naturopathic medicine, so that the person kind of knows the team approach. And when we look at these successful studies, the team approach has been a really big part of it. It's certainly for me, I love working in a team. So it's a really high satisfaction for me. And knowing that I can focus on the piece that PT does best and the OT can focus on the piece that they do best, etc. So There you have it. We talked a little bit about the evidence for dosing and that higher dose yielding great results in some of these more complex cases. We talked about actually what can happen brain wise, and I think we're going to be seeing more of this. And then just an example of what that might look like, and it might be what we need. And again, it also might not be what people need, right? So this is so personal, so individual specific. And that's a big part of why we do a whole weekend course on this is to talk through cases. So what I loved about our course last year, it's the first time that we did this, we had people submit cases and basically have an open mic to discuss with the physicians, the neurologists that are going to be a part of our course, to discuss with other therapists, PTs, OTs, trainers, for ideas and really individualize these principles and theories and ideas and put them into practice. So our I'm really excited about our course. In case you didn't know, I've been hanging out, recording things all week, reading things, putting pieces together. It's coming up October 10th and 11th, and I do want to let you know. Brittany and I have also heard from a lot of people who want individual mentoring on their cases. So we decided to add for anybody that signs up in the next week a one-on-one session. So we're going to do a raffle for a drawing of that. We're not able to do that with everybody in the course, but if you sign up before next week, you'll actually be part of a drawing to do a one-on-one problem-solving session, a virtual session with us, so that we can help apply these things with you. And it's something that we love too. So there you have it. Hopefully you'll join us. I'm going to throw a bunch of links in here for you, a lot of great full text articles for you. And we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.